Welcome to Screen Recaps, and today we are going to recapping the movie Madame Bovary. The movie opens with an introduction to Martin, an elderly man who runs a bakery in a small French village. 7 years ago, Martin took over his father's bakery in this village and has been quietly running it ever since. A taciturn man, Martin rarely speaks. One day, while baking bread, he becomes distracted thinking about his neighbor Charlie and accidentally burns the loaf. When Martin's wife asks what is bothering him, he confides that he is worried Charlie may be suicidal. His wife advises him not to dwell on such matters, saying, "A wise man never commits suicide." Martin decides to check on Charlie. Arriving at Charlie's house, he finds Charlie burning his wife Gemma's clothes. After Charlie leaves, Martin discovers Gemma's diary. Back home, Martin cannot resist reading Gemma's diary, and through a flashback, the story of that fateful day unfolds. When Charlie and his wife Gemma moved to the village to live a peaceful life, their neighbor Martin welcomed them. A few days later, Gemma visited Martin's bakery to buy bread. Martin couldn't help noticing Gemma's beauty. Later, while walking home, Martin ran into Gemma and showed her a beautiful garden that she loved. That night, Charlie came to Martin's house saying their electricity went out. Martin went to fix it, and his wife joined them. The two couples talked over drinks, though Martin only had eyes for Gemma. Some days passed before Gemma visited the bakery again. Martin asks Gemma if she knows how to make bread. Gemma says yes, so Martin takes her to the back room where he used to bake bread. As Martin bakes the same bread, he asks Gemma how she feels. Gemma replies that she feels very relaxed, like she's doing yoga. Martin says he does yoga every morning now. It's very warm in the room, so Gemma removes her sweater. Seeing this, Martin can't help looking at Gemma's body. Later, Martin, his wife Charlie, Gemma's friend, and Gemma have lunch at Martin's house. Afterward, when Gemma and her friend are at Gemma's house, the friend tells Gemma that women should take care of their bodies, which is why she exercises daily. Gemma agrees and starts exercising the next day. We then see Martin going about his day. On his way home, Martin encounters Gemma, who he hasn't seen buying bread for days. Gemma explains that she has stopped eating bread as part of a new diet. As they are saying goodbye, Gemma is suddenly bitten on the back by a worm, causing her great pain. She cries out and asks Martin for help. Upon examining the bite, Martin determines that a poisonous insect has bitten her. He tells Gemma that he must suck the poison from the wound. Gemma agrees, and Martin begins to do so. Just then, a boy named Harp happens upon them and asks what is going on. Before Martin can explain, Gemma collapses and faints. Alarmed, Harp and Martin rush her to the hospital, where the doctor administers an injection and reassures them that Gemma will be fine. While walking home together, Gemma rests her head on Martin's shoulder, filling him with happiness as he starts to think Gemma is growing fond of him. I imagine Harp would wonder about Gemma's health if he saw them. However, Martin later suspects the two will have an affair someday. When Gemma runs into Harp at the supermarket while shopping for wine, he recommends his favorite bottle, which she buys. Meanwhile, Martin spots Gemma heading to an unknown location on his way home after delivering bread. He sees her enter Harp's house alone, leaving Martin worried about why she went there unaccompanied. However, his assumptions prove incorrect when he notices a hickey on Gemma's neck over dinner that night. Martin feels deeply upset, wishing he could have been intimate with Gemma instead of Harp. He blames himself, since the encounter likely would not have happened if Gemma and Harp had not crossed paths that day. The next day, Martin sees Harp, who appeared very tense. Martin approaches Harp and asks what is troubling him. Harp explains that he is unable to concentrate on his studies. Martin suggests that Harp call his girlfriend, thinking she could help provide a distraction. Later, Martin notices Gemma leaving somewhere. Over the next few days, Martin observes Gemma having fun with Harp at his house, confirming Martin's suspicion that Gemma is having an affair with Harp. During this time, Martin can only think about Gemma. One day, a delighted Gemma visits Martin at his bakery. She mentions that Charlie has left for London for several days. Gemma purchases bread, but forgets one loaf. Martin later delivers the forgotten loaf to Gemma's house, where he overhears Gemma inside with Harp. Martin listens to their conversation through the window. Martin became very angry when he heard Gemma and Harp saying, "I love you," to each other. After this, Gemma went to Harp's house. She accidentally broke Harp's mother's very precious idol. Gemma told Harp's mother that she would get the idol fixed before leaving. Gemma then told Harp that they should both go to London, and Harp agreed. The next day, Gemma found a letter at her house. After reading it, she went to Harp's house. Harp's mother had come home and asked Harp about the idol, since it was missing. Harp said there were scratches on the idol, so he had given it to their neighbor Charlie to repair it. Gemma was on her way to meet Harp when she got his message saying he could not go to London with her. Upset, Gemma went home crying. Harp's mother went to Charlie and asked for the idol back, saying Harp had given it to him to repair, but Charlie denied having received any idol to repair. Angry, Harp's mother left. After this, one night Charlie asked Gemma about the idol, but she refuses to tell him. We can see that Gemma wanted to confess her affair to Charlie, but could not. Charlie likely suspected something was wrong because Gemma had been distant, so he went to London for a few days. While Charlie was gone, Gemma felt very lonely. The next day, as Martin was leaving, he found Gemma's dog and brought it to her house. At home, Gemma showed Martin a letter written in French from her mother asking about the idol she thought Charlie had. Gemma asked Martin to draft a reply, but he said it would take a day or two. A few days later, Martin saw Gemma kissing her ex-boyfriend Patrick. Seeing that, Martin was shocked and felt that Gemma was a woman of questionable character. Later, when Gemma and Patrick were at the restaurant, Gemma realized she was behaving improperly. She told Patrick that nothing more would happen between them, and that he should forget her because she still loved her husband Charlie. Upon arriving home, Gemma called Charlie and professed her love for him, saying she could not live without him. Hearing this, Charlie was moved emotionally and immediately left to reunite with Gemma. When Gemma later spoke with Martin, she learned that a letter had been sent to him under the name Harp, not Martin. Upon asking about this, Martin explained that he had felt compelled to take some action on his own out of concern for the situation. He acknowledged that he should not have deceived her. Gemma was not angry with Martin, understanding his good intentions. After bidding Martin farewell with a kiss, Patrick arrived at Gemma's house. With the two of them alone, Charlie then returned. As soon as Martin entered Charlie's house, he rushed outside and frantically called for Martin's help. When Martin went inside, he was shocked to discover Gemma lying dead on the floor. The police were notified and sent Gemma's body for an autopsy that same night. The autopsy report revealed that Gemma had died from a piece of bread lodged in her throat. At Gemma's funeral the next day, Martin told Charlie what the doctor had said about the cause of death. Charlie then confessed that he felt responsible for Gemma's death. He explained that when he had entered the house earlier, he saw Patrick aggressively accosting Gemma from behind. Realizing Patrick was forcing himself on Gemma, Charlie tried to intervene, which led to a physical fight between him and Patrick. In the midst of their scuffle, they failed to notice that Gemma was choking on a piece of bread she had been eating when Patrick approached her. Tragically, their fight distracted them from helping Gemma as she suffocated. The flashback concludes, and the scene transitions to the present day. Martin's son arrives to inform him that a Russian couple has moved into their neighborhood. Upon hearing this news, Martin promptly goes to meet the new neighbors, and the movie comes to an end.
I thought I was doing okay. Girl had it in the big sway.